Stop planting sun-hungry crops in the shade. They'll never reward you. These 20 vegetables hate shade. Here's what to avoid. Have you ever poured your heart into a garden, only to be met with disappointment? Lush green leaves but frustratingly few fruits. Or maybe your plants are tall and spindly. If this sounds familiar, you might be planting sun-worshipping vegetables in the shadows. Today, we're uncovering which full-sun vegetables you'll regret planting in the shade. We'll explore why they fail, the warning signs, and how to fix it. So, what's the big deal with full sun? For many vegetables, especially those that produce fruit, sunlight is energy. Through photosynthesis, plants convert sunlight into the fuel they need to grow strong, flower, and produce fruit. Full sun means a minimum of 6 to 8 hours of direct, unfiltered sunlight per day. Anything less, and these plants enter survival mode. They'll prioritize making leaves to capture what little light they can, but won't have the energy to make a harvest for you. Let's start with the king of the summer garden, the tomato. Without that critical 6 to 8 hours of direct sun, tomatoes become a shadow of their potential selves. In the shade, a tomato plant will stretch desperately towards the light, resulting in long, weak, and spindly stems. You'll notice pale green leaves and very few, if any, blossoms. And no blossoms means no tomatoes. Furthermore, shady, damp conditions are a breeding ground for fungal diseases like blight. A shaded tomato plant isn't just unproductive, it's a disease-prone plant that will likely break your heart. Next up are peppers, both sweet and hot. When you plant a pepper in a shady spot, you might be fooled at first by a lush canopy of green leaves. But that's where the progress stops. Without intense sun, the plant won't switch from growing leaves to producing flowers. You'll be left with a gorgeous green bush that yields nothing. Even if it manages a few flowers, a lack of sun energy often causes blossom drop, where potential fruits simply fall off the plant before they develop. Rounding out our trio of sun-loving nightshades is the eggplant. Eggplants are true heat seekers, craving intense light and high temperatures. In the shade, an eggplant simply stalls. It will remain stunted, and its core function, producing those big, glossy fruits, is completely shut down. The cold, damp soil of a shady spot is the enemy of an eggplant's root system. Even if a tiny fruit begins to form, it will likely turn yellow and drop off. Shade stops it cold. Now let's talk about other classic summer crops. Corn needs sun to stand tall and strong. In shade, stalks become weak and prone to falling over. More importantly, corn is wind-pollinated, and in a sheltered, shady spot, this process is highly inefficient, leading to poorly filled-out ears. Then we have the cucurbits, pumpkins, zucchini, and cucumbers. These vining plants are notorious for developing powdery mildew in shady, humid conditions. The lack of sun to dry the leaves creates the perfect environment for this fungus to drain the plant of its energy. Shade also severely impacts pollination, as the bees that these plants rely on are most active in bright, sunny weather. It's not just fruiting vegetables that suffer. Let's dig into root crops. You might think sun isn't as important since the harvest is underground, but that's a huge misconception. For carrots, beets, and even onions, the leafy tops are the plant's solar panels. They capture sunlight and convert it into the sugars stored in the root. If the tops are shaded, they can't produce enough energy. With carrots, you'll get beautiful green tops but sad, skinny roots. Onions will fail to form large bulbs. The plant's energy goes into making leaves to search for light, neglecting the part you want to eat. So what's a gardener with a shady yard to do? Don't despair. The key is to work with your conditions. Instead of forcing a tomato to grow in the dark, embrace plants that thrive in partial shade. Leafy greens are your best friends here. Lettuce, spinach, and kale all appreciate protection from the intense afternoon sun. Many herbs like parsley, cilantro, and mint also do wonderfully with just a few hours of morning sun. The trick is to choose the right plant for the right place. Let's talk troubleshooting. Can you fix a shady spot? Sometimes. Pruning nearby trees can let in more light. Some gardeners use reflective mulches or paint walls white to bounce more light onto their plants, but the most powerful tool is mobility. This is where container gardening shines. By planting your sun lovers like tomatoes and peppers in large pots, you can move them around your yard, chasing the sun. It's more work, but it allows you to grow virtually anything, anywhere, so there you have it. The key to a successful harvest is understanding your garden's light and respecting the needs of your plants. Forgetting about sun worshippers like tomatoes, peppers, and corn in your shady spots will save you a world of frustration. Instead, embrace the possibilities of shade-tolerant greens and herbs. Or, get creative with container gardening. By matching the right plant to the right place, you can create a productive garden, no matter how much sun you have. Now, let's dig into a common gardening pitfall. Trying to grow sun-loving root vegetables in the shade. It's a tempting idea, especially when you're short on sunny space, but the results are often disappointing. These plants have a clear biological priority. When sunlight is scarce, they pour all their energy into creating bigger solar panels, that is, more leaves, to capture every last ray of light. This survival strategy comes at a direct cost to the part we actually want to eat: the root. Instead of storing that precious energy underground in the form of a sweet carrot, a plump beet, or a crisp radish, the plant uses it all on top growth. Take carrots, for example. In a shady spot, you'll be tricked by what you see above ground. You'll get these beautiful, tall, feathery fronds that look incredibly healthy, but when you go to harvest, you'll find long, spindly, and pale roots that are barely thicker than a pencil. All that potential sweetness and crunch is missing, sacrificed for foliage. Beets and radishes follow the exact same pattern. They simply won't size up. You'll get a canopy of lush, edible leaves, which are great for salads, by the way. But the main event, the root itself, will remain small, woody, and underdeveloped. For radishes, this means you get all green growth and none of that satisfying, spicy crunch. And this rule absolutely applies to the allium family, like onions and garlic. These plants are particularly dependent on day length and sun intensity to trigger the bulbing process. Without enough direct sunlight, the necks of the plants stay thin and they'll never get the signal to start swelling and forming those dense, flavorful bulbs we love. You'll end up with something that looks more like a skinny scallion than a full-sized onion. However, there is a small exception. If you live in a scorching hot climate, a little bit of afternoon shade can actually be beneficial. It can help keep the soil cool and prevent heat-sensitive crops like radishes from bolting, which is when they flower prematurely. But we're talking about dappled shade for a couple of hours, not deep, all-day shade. For a truly successful harvest, these root crops overwhelmingly need at least 6 to 8 hours of direct sun. Shade delays flowering and yields drop by 80%. They love heat. Shade gives you zero beans. First up, let's talk about the cucurbit family. Think squash, zucchini, and cucumbers. These plants are famous for their huge, sprawling leaves, which are fantastic solar panels in the right conditions. But when you put them in the shade, that advantage turns into a major liability. Large leaves, in low light, create a microclimate with poor air circulation and trapped humidity, which is a 5-star resort for powdery mildew. You'll see that telltale white, dusty coating spread across the leaves, choking them out and stealing energy from the plant. The result isn't just cosmetic, it's a complete system failure. The plant can't photosynthesize effectively, leading to stunted growth, and any fruit that does try to form will often be small, misshapen, or simply rot on the vine. Large leaves plus low light truly equals mildew and sadness for any gardener hoping for a harvest. Next, a classic from the nightshade family, the tomatillo. These plants are incredibly productive, but they have a non-negotiable requirement for brilliant direct sun. Without at least 6 to 8 hours of it, their entire reproductive cycle breaks down. In the shade, a tomatillo plant might look leafy and green, but you'll notice a tragic shower of yellowed drop blossoms on the ground beneath it. The plant simply doesn't have the energy reserves to follow through on its promise of fruit. Pollination might occur, but the plant aborts the process before a husk can even begin to form. On the flip side, a sun-drenched tomatillo is a powerhouse, converting that light energy into a strong structure that can support dozens of swelling, paper-skinned lanterns. Without sun, they won't form husks or fruit, leaving you with nothing but a green bush. Now for a crop that often confuses people, peas. Because they thrive in cooler temperatures, many gardeners assume they're tolerant of shade. And while they definitely don't want to be scorched by intense summer heat, they are far from shade lovers. Think of them as cool sun plants. They need that bright, direct light to fuel the critical transition from flowering to pod production. In a shady spot, you'll get long, lanky vines with plenty of leaves, but the flowers will be sparse, and very few will successfully develop into pods. The plant is in survival mode, not production mode. To get those sweet, crisp pods, you need to hit a specific light threshold. Cool weather crop, yes, but they still need that essential light energy to pod up. Finally, let's look at strawberries. These are perennials, and they have a fascinating survival strategy. When light is abundant, they pour their energy into producing what we want: big, juicy, sugary berries. This is their primary mode of reproduction in ideal conditions. However, when you plant them in the shade, they switch gears. The plant senses the low-light conditions are not ideal for producing viable seed-filled fruit. So, instead of making berries, it redirects its energy into sending out runners, or stolons, trying to find a sunnier spot to colonize. They'll survive shade, and may even spread aggressively, but your fruit production collapses. You end up with a sprawling ground cover of leaves, instead of a patch of delicious, sun-ripened fruit. Shade gardens can be incredible, just grow the right plants there. If you want tons of harvest, save shade for herbs and leafy crops. Hit subscribe for smarter gardening, and avoid these shade mistakes forever.